What's up, guys? Chris Brown, Chain Stasis Wellness, coming at you from Train Boston with another wellness moment. This week, we're going to continue our 5 weeks to wellness into week 3, creating positive change for the better. So far in week 1, you collected data about your goals, your behaviors, motivations, strengths, weaknesses, and your biometrics, perhaps. In week 2, you cleaned up and organized your environment you have to work with, probably your kitchen and pantry, and created a plan via mapping out your food menu and by shopping lists. Each week you added a positive behavior to help you get along to whatever goal you planned out. I tried not to limit you to nutritional or fitness-based goals, but that tends to be what everyone starts with because it's simple and they've seen it. By week 3 though, maintaining your behaviors may start to get pretty difficult. It's really hard for people to get through the weekends, first of all, but then it becomes even more difficult to string those weekends along. We tend to do things that are different than our normal patterns of behaviors on our weekends. We don't go to work, depending on your job. We don't go to work often. Maybe our kids are around when you're not used to them being around. Maybe you're hanging out with friends you don't see during the week. Lots of things change, and we don't have things set up in place in our lives often to keep us regular. So it's a lot more easy to go off the rails and just do whatever we feel like. There is no plan. That can be good and it can be fun sometimes, but when you're really trying to bear down on a goal that is difficult, it can make things a little more difficult to maintain in the long term. So in week 3, we have to really remember that the keys to success are consistency and adherence to the plan. We have a goal, we have a plan, and we keep adding to it. Every single week, we add basically a new weekly goal via these positive behaviors. It's not complicated, but it can be difficult, especially when you're trying to maintain it in the long run. Remember, wellness is for your life. It's not for 5 weeks. It's not for 5 months. It's for forever. And that shouldn't be too daunting. You should just look at it as something that you're doing to make yourself better, not that you're taking away all your happiness. A lot of people get stuck in that mentality that it's all about restriction. It's not. We're often adding things in that you didn't have before. So at every point, let's start to revisit where your goals are. This may be a weekly thing for you, right? It should almost be a mantra, right? A mantra is something you repeat to just be mindful of, okay? We want to be more mindful of what we're doing and why we're doing it, right? And possibly you should keep these goals written on somewhere very obvious, maybe at work, maybe on your fridge, or anywhere, somewhere you see daily, just to remind yourself that this is something you thought yesterday or the week before was really important to you. And you just need to remember daily that even though you're tired, even though you've been working at this really hard, you don't want to give up. You want to keep it going. So let's revisit those goals. My goals, just to give you an example, were to increase my shoulder mobility about 10 degrees. That doesn't sound like a lot, but to me it's a lot. My shoulder mobility is not that good. I really want to work on it. My secondary one was to get better sleep. I haven't been sleeping well lately. It's not been the highest level of quality, and I get tired early in the day. So I wanted to make sure that my sleep quality went up. I also wanted to drink less caffeine, which kind of pairs with the sleep thing, but I think I'm drinking too much caffeine in general. So I just want to pare it down as a third goal. And my fourth goal, probably my least important goal, was to lose 2 inches off my waist. Maybe I could be a little leaner, but it's probably a vanity thing for me. And that's okay. It's okay to want to be leaner, want to look a different way, as long as it's not making you unhealthy or you're sacrificing other aspects of wellness to get there. Hey, who doesn't want to look good, right? So I added it on there just for fun, okay? But keep in mind, there can be an order of importance to what you're focusing on. And in my case, that's certainly not the most important one. So I created a behavior on each one of those things. One behavior was to do 3 shoulder mobility drills 4 out of 7 days a week. I got there. I wrote it down. I did it. My next one, go to sleep before 9, 5 out of 7 days a week. I got there as well. I felt better the next day, most of the time. To stop drinking all pre-workout drinks 7 out of 7 days. Now I'm still having caffeine, but those pre-workout drinks have 300 milligrams of caffeine, and that's probably more than I need every single day. So that started helping a lot. Also saves me some money, which is cool. And last, I'm tracking my food on MyFitnessPal 5 out of 7 days a week. If you want to be friends with me, I think I'm C Brown Fit on there, so go ahead and friend me. All right. So all these things, they aren't really that difficult. I didn't feel like I was super stressed out, but I've already started to see results. Shoulders starting to move better most days. I feel a little bit more rested. I don't feel like I have to have more caffeine. I don't really crave it anymore. And I'm definitely eating less calories, eating less non-processed, or eating less processed foods, because I'm actually really paying attention to what and how much I'm eating. Okay. So with you, what were your behaviors? What were your goals? Did you achieve them? If you didn't plan them out or track them out, start doing that now. If you did and you failed, let's take a moment to think about why. Okay. What was the reason? Were you on vacation? Was there too much too fast? Did you try to achieve a goal that just couldn't happen that week? Basically, were you always having temptations around you? Did you go to a place that constantly had junk food, or did you stay out late every single night and you got asked by friends a lot? Did you go grocery shopping while you were halt? Remember, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Did you do anything while that? Maybe these things are affecting you more often than not, right? The important part is to remember that you need to make as little change as possible to get the greatest result, right? So it's kind of like the scientific method. If you change too many things at once, you're not sure which variable worked. And if they fail, you're not sure why you failed. The other thing is, why should we stress ourselves out trying to change everything? It doesn't make sense. Just try to make one little change. It's going to take a little longer, but we want this to last for life. This isn't for 5 weeks or 5 months. This is for life, okay? And then maybe you just need to take a step back, right? So if you chose to do something 7 out of 7 days and you didn't get there, maybe it should have been 4. If you chose to do 5 behaviors, maybe it should have been 3. If you found that you were constantly surrounded by bad things that tempted you, or just things that made it almost feel impossible, maybe you need to find a way to not be around those things as often, or not be around those people as often. There's any number of strategies you can come up with, but you need to think about the why first. You cannot just ignore why you failed. If you fail and learn, you become a better person. If you fail and don't learn, you've got nothing out of that. And oftentimes that leads to complete breakdown. So we need to take a moment to reflect upon it. And that can be hard. People can get stressed or feel bad about it. But it's okay. It's okay to feel bad about it. And you just got to learn and move on from it. You're going to get there eventually, right? So let's talk about how you can take a little bit of nutrition and make it work a little bit better. We're going to add a little learning to this today. So a lot of times I tell people the biggest thing for you is to clean up your quality. We need to get rid of processed foods, or at least eat less of them. So what is processed foods? Well, there is processed and then there's hyper processed, often paired with hyper palatable. So processed food could be food that's altered in any way. It could be as little as canning it or adding sodium to it, which is extremely common. But there's also highly processed foods, and that's where we really want to stay away from. These are foods that have, beyond just the addition of salts and sweeteners and fats, these foods also have food coloring, flavors, preservatives, sometimes hormones, and they can be in any number of packages. Some examples are like mac and cheese, juices and sodas in most cases, cookies, crackers. It's not just junk food, but a lot of things that are in bags and boxes, they're pretty darn hyper processed. If you read the ingredient list on the back, if you can't pronounce half of those words, it's probably hyper processed. And probably hyper palatable, which means it's been enhanced with fats and sodium and other such things, artificial flavors maybe, to make them really hard to resist. Think like Lay's potato chips, right? So those are the kind of things we want to tone down, all right? If you're eating those things, then you need to improve your quality of your foods. That's the first thing. Before you think about calories, before you're worried about portions, I don't care what your portions are if you're eating potato chips. You need to eat something better. You need to not malnourish yourself, okay? But if you're good, your quality's high, you may just be overly full. Maybe you're binge eating even healthier foods. You just sit down and eat a bunch of, say, cashews or something like that. It doesn't matter. If your biometrics aren't changing, if your waist isn't getting smaller, if you don't see any visual changes, if maybe you're feeling inflamed or bloated all the time, maybe your weight's not going down, etc., possibly you need to start watching your portions, okay? So I like to use the tip I said a couple weeks back of using Tupperware to eat out of. That is portion control that you cannot mismanage. Another thing you can do is use your hands for portion sizes. I like to tell people with proteins, men want to do 2 palms of a lean protein, women want to do 1. And you probably want to get 1 cupped palm of starches for women and 2 for men. And you with your vegetables, you probably can get 2 fists for women as well, but 2 fists for men, 1 fist for women. And then if you're having fast with your meal, about a thumb of oils or nuts. Remember, nuts and nut butters, they're actually mostly oil. They're not a protein source, people. Okay. You can also use measuring cups or spoons to scoop out food when you put them in there, and then you kind of have an idea. If you're using something like MyFitnessPal to measure your food, or Chronometer to measure your food, it helps you kind of figure out, hey, what am I doing? I don't like people to get into the habit of measuring or weighing all the time, but it can be enlightening. Okay. If you're good on some days, but bad on others, let's address the consistency. This is where your emotional logs triggers come in. All right. You need to figure out why you weren't adhering on some days and why you were on others. So oftentimes what I see people do is they just don't log at all on days where they just go nuts. They go with their friends, are like, screw it, I'm going to drink booze, I'm going to eat nachos and french fries, and I'm not going to log it at all. And they throw it to the wind and they eat enough calories to sabotage their entire week. And then they wonder why I don't get great results. I'm good 5 days out of the week. It's because you ate 3,000 calories on Saturday and Sunday, and then you binge drank both days. That happens all the time. You can't work out beyond your nutrition, guys. You need to be consistent. I tell people, if you get through 3 weekends in a row, you're going to start to see great results. It always happens 100% of the time. Oftentimes people are lying to themselves and say they're more consistent. Data doesn't lie. Write it down and you'll see. If you're not getting results, you're probably lacking in one of those areas. Maybe you're going out with the wrong people. Maybe you're going out with people who discourage you from being healthy. Oftentimes those people, they don't want to feel bad about themselves, and when they see you do better, it makes them feel bad. So they want to bring you down. Other times you're just going to events that just constantly have bad foods. Maybe you're going to a Red Sox game. Maybe you're going and sitting down in front of a TV at a Buffalo Wild Wings. It's just constant bad foods in front of your face. It's really hard to resist that, okay? Especially when you're stressed or halt. Remember, hungry, angry, right? All these emotional triggers, lonely, tired, they make things hard to resist, okay? So when you figure that out, come up with a strategy. Maybe go to those areas less, hang out with those people less. Don't drive by certain venues as much. Maybe McDonald's is on your route. You got to go around it. Those kind of things. But if your nutrition is fully on point, maybe you need to address your sleep, your fitness, your stress management, or your relationships. I'll go into these in more depth in later videos. Maybe next week we'll start to talk about sleep and fitness a little bit more. But any one of these things could be your goal. They could all be part of your goal, like they are with mine. And any one of them could affect the other, which could make your nutritional goal or your fitness goal harder to achieve. For instance, I talked about your friends maybe sabotaging you. Well, that is your relationships. Maybe your motivation is low because your sleep isn't very good. And maybe you just need to burn more calories or build more muscle and you're not working out. So these are all things that can build upon each other, right? All right. So by week 3, you won't have run out of things to work on. Everybody's got a lot of stuff to work on. There's no point where you don't have anything to work on. Don't try to throw everything at yourself all at once, though. It's just a matter of what's the littlest thing you can do to make the biggest amount of change. All right? There's always something that needs work, and there's never too late. There's never an end, right? You just have stops along the way on your journey to wellness. You're never actually going to end. And so you can't make it feel stressful to the point where you want it to be over. You have to make it feel like this is manageable. This is who I am, and I can do this. All right, guys. So next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about motivation. We'll talk about sleep and fitness. But this week, try to add another behavior or go back and finish something you didn't do before. Maybe you have to backtrack and make your weekly behaviors a little bit easier. Write it down. Sit down, give yourself the time to think about what went well and what went wrong. All right, guys? Don't forget, this is a journey, and you got this. Thanks, guys. Stay well.